Bub.
What's happening, guy? What's happening, dude?
Hangout on air is live.
I saw that part. That's why I was talking over you. Because what's happening, guy?
Oh, now I'm hearing myself.
Oh, I just heard me.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was awesome. It sounded friggin' sweet. Let's talk. Let's talk like this the whole time.
How about this? Is this better? Can you not hear yourself now?
I can't. I can hear everything just fine. Well, I'm sorry. We need to talk like this.
Oh my God. People are going to come on the show and then they're going to freaking leave.
I'm gonna go up the house and do a podcast.
go down the road a piece.
Go up the road a bit. You drive down the road till you see where the Cummins barn used to be, and you turn right there.
Okay.
You bang a left.
Yeah, let's not do that. Okay. Hello and welcome to Handgun Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Machad from the wild woods of central Maine, and this is your home for all the news, information, and discussion in the handgunning world. This week, we discuss some handguns that we may have disliked in the past that we should reconsider, along with a short discussion about the recent YouTube situation. So as always, Handgun Radio is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network, and please check out the Patriot Patch Company for their awesome patches and other high-quality items. Visit patriotpatch.co for more information. As always, shop Amazon using our affiliate link, firearmsradio.tv/Amazon, and please help support Handgun Radio. Head over to firearmsradio.tv/pledge and click on HGR. A bunch of different pledge levels over there, and we really appreciate it. So, Weird, how you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Ryan?
Oh, not bad. Did some priming of cases. I primed a few trays worth of 38 special cases, so I can get to those maybe this weekend.
What's in a tray?
50.
50?
But yeah, other than that, I didn't do much because it is still a barren snow wasteland up here.
Did you get any snow from this storm?
No, we got nothing.
Yeah, we actually, I think we lost snow, but still is one of those. Another nor'easter coming through.
Yeah, I'm so sick of snow.
Like I've always said, like in Maine, it's the Ides of March is like the magic demarcation line. Like up until March 15th, you can expect anything. After March 15th, like, all right, it's going to start feeling like spring. And that has not been the case in the last few years.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's been pretty nice this week, but the range is still pretty muddy, and it's quite a walk down to where we go to shoot from, like where you can park your car. So we'll wait till it gets a little more solid, then we can actually drive down and shoot and get some videos and stuff.
Just throw a shooting blanket up on the roof of your car and shoot down at it.
I mean, I could, I suppose, but I legitimately could, actually. That's the funny part.
And even better, if you can get yourself up nice and high, just shoot at the dirt and you'll just see the big muddy plops. That's your target.
So, yes, spring is almost here. So what'd you do this week?
Again, weather's awful. Didn't end up getting out to the range. I need to, but did not, because I've been spending a lot of time putting together little segments to make a podcast. So it is official. We have announced that the new podcast that myself, Aaron Paulette, and Savage 1R from We Like Shooting are doing is going to be called the Assorted Calibers Podcast, abbreviated ACP. We did that intentionally. And I believe someone I might be talking to right now might have heard that first episode.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
I wouldn't go quite that far. We're still learning.
There was one little screw up. The major screw up at the end was, I don't know. You didn't mention that you were the co-host of Handgun Radio.
I might have forgotten to do that.
I immediately texted you and I was like, "You ass!"
And I'm like, "Oh, did I?" Oh,
I said, "You are my co-host." I was like, "Oh, it's all right. I'm sure next time." I definitely wanted to talk with you about it because it did. I really, really enjoyed it. I think people are going to enjoy it as well. It is definitely a different layout than this show.
Yes.
They talk more politics, more current events, stuff like that. we're more like hardware on this show, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of. We're like, yeah, but
yeah, the Assorted Calibers podcast is going to be definitely much more of a software related show, talking about the Second Amendment and really how to talk and address the Second Amendment in this current landscape.
we have our friend Aaron, who's down in the southern part of the country. You're up north, and then friend Weird is all the way. Or Weird, geez, friend Savage rather is all the way out west.
Yes,
So,
he is.
good mixture of perspectives on various happenings about the country and of Washington, if I know Savage.
Yes. And finally, for those who listen to We Like Shooting, Savage is constantly talking about Bitcoin, and the guys will never let him talk about Bitcoin. And I went, you know what? We're doing this is kind of a spiritual successor to the Gunblog Variety Cast. That was something that I definitely wanted to bring my segment, which is the Weird Audio Fisk from that show onto this one. And so with that, I said, oh, let's still keep it a little bit of a variety show. It's still going to have, it's the main host segment is going to be unscripted like this, but there will be prepared segments within it. So that'll add kind of the best of both worlds, in my opinion. Yeah, Ed Savage gets to talk about Bitcoins, which honestly speaking, I think is kind of cool because I don't know anything about Bitcoins and other cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a, I would call it more of a lifestyle podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps maybe because the main focus is still guns and gun laws, gun happenings, etc. But you have I think Aaron had what did she had like a prepping segment on the Gun Blog Variety Cast. So it wasn't always about oh, go buy this gun, go buy this ammo. It was about what can you do to be prepared for a scenario. So there's going to be a bunch of variety like that, and I think people will really enjoy it.
Yes, the stuff that isn't about guns might be stuff that you are also interested in if you are a listener to these kinds of shows.
Excellent. So stay tuned. As soon as I know anything, I'll share it on the Handgun Radio Facebook page, and you'll hear about it here on the show as well. So, and on Weird's blog too.
Yep.
WeirdWorld.com. So Weird, what's your drink segment this week?
So this is really more of just kind of a lark. I was reading, I'm not sure if you're aware, but did you know how heavy a smoker Walt Disney was?
I did not know.
Walt Disney evidently went through 3 packs of Lucky Strikes every day until they finally put him in a cryogenic container, allegedly. I think that's an urban legend, but Walt did die of lung cancer, and he was a heavy smoker, but he knew smoking wasn't good for you. And so he tried to make it a point that when he was with kids, he wouldn't smoke. And every production photo of Walt Disney, he tried to have the cigarettes airbrushed out of his hand. So if you look at a lot of pictures of Walt Disney, you'll see those 2 fingers together where the cigarette was, but was removed by airbrush. And but just in reading all that, also realized that he was also a bit of a drinker. And evidently his favorite drink was a cocktail called a Scotch Mist, which I hadn't heard of. And it is very, very simple. It is Scotch. I would assume a blended Scotch, because I wouldn't do anything really fancy for something like this. But it's a blended Scotch poured over crushed ice with a twist of lemon. And as we were just talking about, the ground is covered with snow. I am not breaking out the Lewis bag until we get a little bit of a thaw. And so I said, I'm not going to make a crushed ice drink because it's too chilly. So instead I said, just on a whim, I took a bottle of Canadian Mist whiskey, and I threw a lemon twist into it. And you know what? It actually tastes really good. But of course, the silliness is it's a Scotch mist made with Canadian mist. So do you call it a Canadian Mist, or a Canadian Mist Canada Mist?
I have a feeling whatever you call it, we're going to insult somebody.
Well, if we insult the Canadians, that's okay.
They'll just say sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. That does sound pretty delicious, though.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Like The only thing I really keep this Canadian Mist around is for the carte blanche, which for longtime listener to the show, because that was one of the first drink segments I did. That's from the Jeffrey Deaver novel of the same name, and it is Canadian whiskey, triple sec, and Angostura bitters, and it's essentially an old fashioned variant, and that's really the only thing it works really well at, because it's really kind of a boring whiskey. It's dirt cheap and decent quality. It's not like headache liquid or anything, but it just doesn't have a whole lot of character to it. But you know what? When you throw the little lemon twist in there, and I might have added a couple drops of peach bitters this time, and yeah, it's nice.
Excellent. So with that, we'll head into the main topic: handguns that might need to be reconsidered. Upward inflection question mark. Okay, so we're probably going to piss a lot of people off with this main topic, honestly. Originally, I had proposed it to Weird. I said, hey, how about we talk about quote unquote bad handguns we should reconsider? And then I was like, if I say bad handguns about some of these, I'm going to make a lot of people mad.
I think actually that might have been what I said in my blog.
But so in essence, I'm talking about guns that I may have just written off, like my experience with it wasn't good, and I was just like, oh yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible handgun, but it's just not something that I would like to own or shoot.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, perhaps at the time when I tried the firearm, I wasn't as experienced as I am now, or my hands were smaller, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few here, and Weird, I see you added a couple. So we're going to do kind of a split main topic. So we're going to talk about this for a little while, then we're going to talk about the YouTube stuff. So the first one that came to mind with me was Beretta 92s.
Mm-hmm.
And I can already hear the hate mail coming in. Beretta 92s, I remember I tried one when I was a lot younger. I'm sure my hands were smaller. And I didn't like it. It was too big. The safety decocker wasn't in a good position. It was wide. It shot fine, but it was just hard to get a handle on. Now, nowadays, I mean, I've held them. They do feel better in my hand than I remember. I haven't had a chance to shoot one lately. But then I also look and I see some of the Beretta 92s that have been worked over by like Ernest Langdon or Wilson Combat. And those ones really intrigue me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think on some of those, don't they do like, or try to do maybe like perhaps frame cuts or frame thinning to allow for like a better purchase and an easier trigger reach and stuff like that, or maybe like a short trigger pack or something?
Well, I mean, that's what they did with, what is it, the M9A3?
They straightened the grip on that one.
I think they also reduced they did reduce the frame in it as well, and just they had a grip module that gave it the original M9 feel. But yeah, we both handled that, and it didn't feel all that bad.
No, it wasn't bad, and I think it. I don't recall. I'm pretty sure Ernest Langdon at one point was associated with Beretta in some way. And I don't know if maybe they contacted him. He worked with them on that to make it like a production model that's a bit more user-friendly, perhaps. Because I mean, unless you have decent-sized hands, that is a big gun.
It is a big gun. It is a fat gun. It has an exceptionally fat grip for the fact that it's only 15+1 with a flesh fit magazine. That's kind of like my big sticking point with that gun, is that Glocks, especially the older Glocks, the newer ones don't seem to be quite as porky, but like definitely like the Gen 1 Glocks and the Gen 2 Glocks just had really, really chunky square grips. But hey, you're fitting 17+1 and a Glock 17 in that big chunky grip. So you know what? You can kind of go, yeah, get what you pay for. It's kind of like the old P14s from Para Ordnance back when they were still Canadian, and they were sending in those just chunky 1911s. But you're getting 14+ rounds of 45 in a 1911. Yeah, it's gonna be a little fat.
Well, and that's the one thing I do remember is, and I thought, maybe it was a function of the width of the grip and stuff, was that the M9 that I did shoot, or the Beretta 92 rather, was exceptionally soft shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to some other guns.
Well, that's the upside of having a really fat backstrap is like, a single stack will feel more uncomfortable to shoot than a double stack, especially a double stack that's got a very generous grip to it, or a single stack that's got a very generous grip to it, just because that recoil impulse is spread out more in your hand. It's getting hit with a paddle than versus being hit with a whip.
Right. Yeah, and the stuff that I mean, I've been trying to find some of the stuff that Ernest Langdon is doing to Berettas. Get Langdon Tactical here. I mean, he works on stuff. He works on the Storms and everything else too. So, I mean, they got short reach triggers, various sight replacements.
Do they have a cowling that goes over the trigger bar?
I don't see one. Let's see.
Those are two big things that get me with the Berettas, though, that like you could do a lot of work. Like throw the decocking only safety on it. I love that, where you push the safety down, it pops right back up. Awesome. That helps. I still don't like looking at the safety hanging off the end of the slide. I just don't like that just has a negative connotation to me, be it the Berettas or the Smith & Wessons or the Walthers or all that. Having the safety up on the slide is just puts a bad taste in my mouth. But it's not a problem, especially if it's a decocking only safety. But the fact that you've got that trigger bar right on the outside, just exposed to the elements, and the firing pin block that just pops up out of the slide every time you pull the trigger. Like, come on, guys.
So looking at Langdon Tactical here, the level 2 trigger job is $160. And it's the same basic trigger job, which is improves the weight and feel in both double and single action with a reduced weight hammer spring. But it also includes the addition of the Wilson Combat Ultimate Action Tune Kit. The trigger bar in this kit gives the trigger a much better, crisper feel in both double action and single action, as well as reducing the trigger reset to allow for faster and more accurate follow-up shots. It also ensures a full power hammer strike in double action. You can get some add-on options like a spurless hammer, VZ grips, Wilson Combat battle sights. The G model. Now I'm trying to remember, what the hell is the G model? Is it just safety only?
I believe G is now I'm going off for guess, but I think the G is the decocker only. Let's look that up.
I'm looking that up right now. The G conversion kit allows you to convert your standard FFS series 92 or 96 or M90A3 to decock only.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm a huge fan of that. Like, I don't know why more. It seems like it's kind of rare. Like that they only make a few of them, or you got to buy the kits to convert them over.
But I mean, then you have cool 92 variants like those. That was the Beretta Millennium, where it was frame mounted safety.
Oh yeah. Well, wasn't it the very very original 92s had the frame mounted safety?
Oh, those are the Tauruses.
Well, no, but I think that's what Taurus was copying with those. I believe the very very original Beretta 92s had like the not quite button, not quite heel magazine, and the frame mounted slide. Like the very first Beretta had the button like in like the grip panel.
Yeah, the button's down at the lower right corner.
So it's like almost it's really the strangest release. That my 21A has the exact same magazine release.
That's actually wouldn't be the strangest release though. Thinking about, so you would come up and bring your left hand cupped around the very bottom of the grip and reach back, and your thumb would fall right on that button, and then you could grab the mag as it comes out.
Yeah, it's a little bit nicer than a heel release.
And then yeah, you're right. The safety is mounted on the frame. I
Mhm.
never actually looked at the early Beretta 92s. That you
And
learned
and
something
that would
every
and I
day.
would assume that would be like the CZ75, where it would be the B or just pre B 75s, where to get it in double action, you would actually need to manually lower the hammer,
That's crazy.
because I would imagine that safety just disables the trigger, and so if the trigger's disabled, there's no way for you to get that hammer down.
All right, so don't send us hate mail. We like Berettas. I'd like to try another one. Um, Taurus revolvers and autos. First, old versus new. Should you go old Taurus or new Taurus?
Um, I don't think it really matters. I
I
mean, they've
think the
I
older revolvers probably would not be what I would go with.
I don't know, and I guess it depends. I mean, I guess the idea of being like, yeah, I mean, I think the big statement of Taurus is, we mentioned the Beretta 92, and again, no matter what our opinions of the Beretta 92 is, it's a perfectly fine gun. We may not like it. It is an absolutely perfectly fine gun. And Taurus has made bank copying the Beretta 92,
Yeah, because they
especially.
went to Brazil and bought the Beretta factory and all the tooling after Beretta left, and the
Yep,
same thing with Smith and Wesson.
exactly. And so a lot of Taurus's guns are copies of pre-existing guns. So it's not like it is a gun company just making a really screwed up design and just trying to make the best of it. Instead, it is a company taking really really solid designs and copying them. And I think a lot of the Taurus problems, because again, be it Taurus or be it Kimber or a bunch of other places, you say, oh man, those Taurus guns are garbage. Those Kimbers are garbage. And someone's going to come in and go, oh, mine's great. I mean, like I mentioned, my cousin's carry gun is a Taurus revolver. And his is a really, really nice gun, especially for how much he paid for it. I've shot a friend of mine has what is it? A Raging Bull in 454 Casull. And that gun is really, really, really nice. Like, it is nice and tight. It has a really great trigger. The action is nice and smooth. It's a really, really cool design. It's a good gun, but not all of them are like that because their quality control is not as intensive as a lot of other companies. So it's not a question of old or new, in my opinion. It's a question of, does it work?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're general, like, put it this way, like if you buy a Smith and Wesson, for instance, or a Glock, chances are you're not. You could buy them your entire life, and the chances are you're probably not going to get a lemon.
Yeah, you will if you own a gun shop and you're getting Glocks and
Right,
Smith and
right.
Wessons and all that shipped in like every day. Yeah, you're gonna get one where you open up the box and it's got rust on it. You're gonna have it, oh, the sight's broken off, or just every mass production company is going to throw out a lemon or two. But for them, it's one of those, for every 1,000 there's one that's a little bit off and not even necessarily a bad gun. For other companies that are quality control is going out the window. And I mean, Remington's recent bankruptcy is attuned to this as well. They really were cutting their lines thin, and they were sending out guns that used to be rock solid that were not good anymore.
Right. Yeah, and then the autos. I mean, I've had fantastic experience with that PT-22 Poly,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, with Taurus, I think honestly, like you said, it's hit or miss. I don't hate Taurus guns; they actually do make some pretty decent designs. They're a little bit chunkier sometimes than I would prefer. A Taurus snub nose is in no way going to catch my eye more so than like a J frame.
Yeah.
Um, J frame is smooth, has smooth lines. It's no bigger than it needs to be, and sometimes I feel like some of the Taurus guns maybe are a little bit bigger than they potentially didn't need to be. And that could just be a consequence of their manufacturing process. But
they're also a company that's not afraid to try new things. They're not afraid to think outside the box. Like, what was it? The Taurus View,
the Taurus View, the Curve.
The Curve.
People were ragging on the Curve when it first came out, and I said, yeah, but at least they're trying something. So what if they put it in the friggin' lineup for a year, it doesn't sell? Okay, take it off.
I'm kind of amazed that actually that design hasn't been copied, because
it might be a better idea for a larger gun.
Yeah, I think ideally that's kind of like for a pocket gun, I think is the best idea, because
their idea was with a belt clip.
Yeah, the first thing I saw when I thought that was all my hip flasks, and I've got a pretty decent collection of them, and they've got that little a hip flask is not square, it's got a curve to it, and guess what, you drop it in your pocket and it just kind of curves around your leg, and there it just kind of disappears.
Of course you have one, a collection.
I've got like 5.
But yeah, I mean, they're not afraid to innovate. However, whether what did the guy say? You never thought that, or never took, you were too busy figuring out how you could that you never thought if you should, or something like that.
It's Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. Yeah, you kept spending all your time figuring out if you could do that and not if you should.
Yeah, they've kind of had a couple of those.
A lot of those, or a shorter way to say it, a little less navel gazing, is they've produced a lot of answers in search of a question.
Yeah. But the Taurus Judge is an example, I think. I mean, I personally, I think it's a cool novelty, sort of. It has its applications.
The Taurus Judge is the smartest thing Taurus ever did.
Oh my God, it put them on the map, I think.
A massive amount of bank making these guns. We can like them. It's just like the Beretta 92s. Hey, guess what? I don't like the Beretta 92. It's not a gun that I like. I think it's inferior to most of the other guns out there, in my personal opinion. Doesn't matter. The Beretta is selling them like hotcakes. People love them. People think that they're absolutely gorgeous. People think that they're just a fine piece of Italian craftsmanship. And guess what? Yeah, if that's what you think, you're right. I don't agree with it, but doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right and you're wrong. And the Taurus Judge, it is not a fine piece of craftsmanship. It's also definitely, when you look at the ballistics of that thing, it is definitely an answer desperate search of a question. Like, it's one of those, like, what are you going to do with this? Like, I mean, even Taurus with their like marketing. I remember when those first came out, they had
watermelons.
Yeah, they were shooting watermelon, or the guy that had the shoot and see target, and he just blasted it with birdshot.
Yeah, I remember watching that. I think he shot across the passenger seat of his vehicle. That was Dick Metcalf, but the guy that ended up getting fired from Guns and Ammo. And I remember being worried, like, dude, you're gonna hit your door with the patterns that thing throws at such a short distance.
Yeah, and it throws a massive pattern. And actually, I just watched who was it? Clint Smith, is it? Who's the guy from Thunder Ranch?
Yeah, Clint Smith.
Yeah, Clint Smith. I watched a video the other day of Clint Smith running the Mossberg Shockwave. And one of the big things he was showing was what the pattern looked like on it with that short barrel. And I certainly grew up. I don't know if you had heard it too, of the shorter you cut down the barrel of a shotgun, the bigger the spread gets. And, you cut a shotgun barrel down to 10 inches and it's just going to be like, you pull the trigger on one side of your living room and all the paint's going to get ripped off the wall on the other side. I don't know if you heard that or not, but that is absolutely an urban legend with that little short barrel on that Mossberg Shockwave. Yeah, no, the pattern's about the same. It might be a little bit bigger than like an 18-inch 12 gauge, but
the Judge has shallow rifling, which throws it in that donut pattern.
That's exactly it. It's not the Judge throws the crazy patterns because the centripetal force of that shot cup spinning down the bore causes the rounds to spiral out, and that makes what donut of death, as some people call it, which is really a terrible idea when you think about it. Is that where you've got your front sight put is going to be where pellets are not going to go, and all around it pellets are going to go. So it's the exact opposite of a precision gun.
I knew someone who bought that. They had they lived out west and they had snakes and stuff, and they bought the Judge, and it was, it was a fun, like, playing around on the range or whatever, but they bought it for like snakes, and he actually ended up switching back to the old CCI shot shell rounds with the blue cap on them.
Yep.
Because he just found that those for some reason worked better out of a regular pistol than the shotgun shells out of the Judge.
I'm trying to remember. Long time ago, I think I saw someone doing high-speed video with the CCI shot shells. And I can't remember if those little plastic cups, the little plastic bullets, if you will, if they break apart in the rifling and they're coming out. I think those do throw a little bit of a donut pattern, but it might not be as bad as the Taurus.
But anyway, we'll move on here. I'm sure we've made a bunch of people mad for that one too. The Ruger P Series autos. I need to reconsider these. I've had quite a bit of experience with them, and I always, they're super heavy and they're chunky and this, that, and the other.
Oh, they're ugly. They're such big, ugly guns.
Savage just got one and he loves that thing. And I'm like, man, I haven't handled one in quite a while. I think I need to try them again.
Yeah, I need to too.
I mean, they're not a bad gun. They've always been reliable.
They work. That's the big thing, is they work.
But I mean, I remember the takedown on them. I tried to take one down one time, and I was trying to read the instruction manual. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Press this lever, and it's kind of like the Smith & Wesson where you have to pull the slide back and press a lever down through the mag well.
Yep.
And I had never encountered something like that before.
Well, they got the earlier ones. I think they later switched to a Browning linkless system, but the earlier P series also have the Browning swing link, which that just surprised me, because that's one of those things of I'm a 1911 guy. I love 1911s, but that Browning swinging link is just an absolute dog. Like, why? It's just a terrible design, and it's not a terrible design because it works fine, but it's an overly complicated design when you look at the Browning linkless system that everybody uses. And it's amazing to see, like, oh, there's another manufacturer that uses that little Browning swing link. Oh, cute.
And kind of in that same vein, the Smith & Wesson SD9, which I believe they've discontinued now, as well as the Sigma series, as long as you're not talking about the Sigma 380.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I've definitely recently reconsidered the Sigma. I don't know if you remember, I talked about, I went to the range and this guy was shooting a gun and I was looking at it and I'm like, all right, it's a polymer frame, but it's got a polished slide. And I can't figure out what the heck that is. It's not a Glock profile. What is it? And the dude was shooting a ported Sigma. And, I didn't end up actually putting any rounds through it, but God, that thing was butter smooth, and it had a really nice trigger on it, and it was all, and the slide was kind of polished in that slides and flats.
There's a lot of real estate on that gun for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was really pretty, and as far as the guy knew, it was done from the factory that way. I tried to look it up and tried to track down, any sort of Smith & Wesson information. I mean, granted, Smith & Wesson's pretty quiet on the SD and Sigma series. They exist, but they don't really burn a whole lot of calories. Like, the most I'd ever saw about the Smith & Wesson SD was when they released it, when they essentially, updated the Sigma series, discontinued the Sigma series and brought in the SD series. And then they had a big display of it at the NRA show. And that was the last I ever really heard. There was a couple of magazine not articles, but ads. I don't think it even sent any out for like review. I don't think I remember seeing any magazines doing reviews on the SD series.
I had a couple of friends that bought them. I mean, they seemed like fine pistols.
The SDs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're you got to remember that what they are. I mean, it's it's hard to pick one up and not compare it to an M&P. And when you do that, it's suddenly this is not as nice as an M&P.
Right.
It's also not as expensive as an M&P. And again, I'm a huge fan of reliable, good, low cost guns because not everybody's someone that's going to be saving up their lunch money for that 1911 that they want so much, or that Wilson Combat Beretta 92. There are some people that are just to be one of those like, I need a carry gun and I don't feel like spending a ton of money. And oh look, the Glock or the M&P or the Springfield cost this much money, and the other this SD9 or this used Sigma, like, oh, you can probably get like a used Sigma for like $200, I bet.
Oh, easy.
Yeah, and it's one of those like $200 for a gun that's practically identical to a non-initiated person, and there's the trigger might be kind of garbage, but hey, guess what? Do you really know what a good trigger feels like if you're not like someone that's spending a lot of time shooting? And even with that garbage trigger, can you send them down range? Yeah, you can.
So you have to reconsider the K frame.
So I thought it was just something interesting to put in is that, so it's a little bit of a curveball. I hear the disdain in your voice because we both love K-frames. K-frames are awesome. And if you listen to this show, you're an old moldy revolver person anyway. You're at least have some tolerance for us people with the old moldy revolvers. We are not
when I was your age, I had to walk through 10 miles of snow just to get to the range.
Yep. And but again, the big thing about the K-frames is the reason why the K-frames disappeared until very, very recently was that, yes, you could put a 357 Magnum into the K-frames, but it is going to kill it. It will shoot itself to death if you shoot nothing. If you take your Model 66 or my Model 66 and put 1,000 rounds of full house 357 through it, it's not going to be a happy gun. But like I said, the K-frame disappeared for a while and was replaced by the L frame, which is slightly more strengthened and has no problem. A 686, you could blaze away with that sucker in full house 357. It's going to do just fine. But now the K-frame is back with the new Model 66, which, I got to also reconsider. I just look at it and I just go, ugh. I don't like the new Model 66 because I'm like, ugh.
I just don't like the matte finish.
Yeah, and they put like black controls on it. It's just kind of a weird looking gun, and it's also got that little nose. I'm so used to the 686, and I love the 686 that I see it and I go, it's kind of like I mentioned the Browning High Power. The Browning High Power is so close to a 1911, but not a 1911 that every time I pick up a Browning High Power, I'm like, oh, this is a cool gun. It's like a 1911. It'd be better if it was a 1911.
Right.
Or my shooting of I shot a Smith & Wesson 645, and that gun is so 1911 like, but not a 1911. And it's one of those like, if you're going to be this close to a 1911, why don't you just be a 1911?
So before we wrap up here, we have a little discussion about the YouTube BS, as we're going to call it.
Yes.
It's a family show.
It's not what you've got written in the show notes.
That's not what I have written in the show notes. It starts with an F and ends with an uckery. So YouTube recently decided to change their policies on content featuring firearms. Now, I know that
I don't know if they're necessarily changing their policy. I think they're just being open about it because they've really been messing with firearms channels a lot recently. So
this show has never really been huge on the YouTube channel. I mean, I do have the YouTube channel. People go watch it. I have videos of me shooting suppressed firearms, I had a bunch of instructional videos on reloading that I'm probably going to have to pull down. I've already downloaded them, so I will be uploading them to the Facebook page until Facebook screws us over there too. But this is going to hurt if they do implement this with the zeal that I feel like they probably want to. This is going to hurt a lot of good channels that provide a lot of good content and good historical background and good education to people that want it. People are suggesting Full30. Full30 is a great website. I have no problems with Full30, but you also have to realize that people that watch gun videos aren't just gun people. And folks that are on YouTube for one thing and stumble down that YouTube rabbit hole where they click on the link over on the right-hand side and they go to the next video and the next video, and pretty soon they're on my video because they followed something that interested them. And Full30 is nice, but unless you're a gun person, you're probably not going to go there.
And even if you are a gun person, like I heard the plight of the gun channels and all these people losing some of their money. And I've heard people say, oh man, there's ads on Full30, but hey, guess what? We get a little bit more of that money. Like it's better money on Full30 that, they treat us better over there. And I went, oh man, I'm going to go over and do that. And I just found it wasn't as easy to look at, and it wasn't as easy to watch. And it's just gun stuff.
And there's no app.
And guess what? If I'm going to be, when I'm sitting down in my chair and I'm watching a little TV at the end of the day, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be watching gun stuff. There's going to be gunplay on TV. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm a gun guy. That's what I do. But I'm also going to watch cooking videos. I'm going to be watching there's all sorts of different stuff. I mean, I've actually got a YouTube window open right now, and let's see. On the top of it, I've got Film Cow, the guys that make Charlie the Unicorn. That's funny stuff. Doug DeMuro doing a car review. Bill Whittle talking politics. Cowboy Kent Rollins talking about cast iron skillets. And then Lunkers TV. It's a fishing channel, but he's a shooter. Deer Meat for Dinner. It's a more of a hunting channel, but he's a shooter. The Game Theory. There's a bunch of other stuff. There's Hickok 45. Just going down the sidebar, and there's like 1,000,001 different things because yeah, I like guns, and I like guns a lot, and I watch a lot of gun related material, but that's not all I watch.
Well, Full30 doesn't, like I said, I appreciate what they've done, but they don't have the infrastructure like YouTube does. And they may at some point. No one's saying they won't, but it's an echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no app. And I've had a bunch of friends say, if you want to watch the content enough, or if you want to see the content bad enough, then you'll watch something that might not be as user friendly to be able to access it. And no, that's just not the case. Your average viewer is going to go to the path that takes them the least effort to reach your stuff.
And also, you've got to remember why YouTube is doing this. Because none of these people that they're banishing away are hurting anybody.
No,
and it's just and it's not even like there's any view that spree shooters or gangbangers or any of these people that are actually doing harm are learning stuff that, oh, I was watching Hickok 45, or I watched Jeff Zimba, the big shooterist, set up a bump fire stock or set up a binary trigger. No, they don't care. They don't care about that sort of stuff. But the big thing is it's ostracizing firearms. It's cleaning out that content, that subculture out of their channel. And that goes both ways. By them cleaning us out of YouTube, they get rid of us, but they also get rid of, we interviewed Hickok 45, and of all of the big names that I have talked to, that is the one where, if I'm at just, a cocktail party and I'm just talking to random people, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, I met Hickok 45. People don't know who Alan Gura is. People don't know who Masa Youb is. People know, just regular people know who Hickok 45 is. Not everybody, but
maybe they just, what's that gun in that movie? That looks cool. And they stumble across a video he did on it.
Exactly. And so, and with that, you get people who, oh, just have a passing interest. What's that gun in the movie? Or right now there's a lot of talk of AR-15s in the news and whether or not we should ban them or all that. Someone might go, well, what's the full story of an AR-15? Do a little Google search, and hey, guess who owns YouTube? Google. So guess what? Those YouTube videos pop up really high. And well, if they're not throttling down the search topics. And oh, look, there's just, Ryan Machad, a regular dude shooting his AR-15. And people realize, oh, it's not, all about just, filling the world full of lead and hurting people and whatever negative connotations you want to put to it. You need it. You need that cross-pollination.
And I'm not one to cry wolf, and I just want to wrap it up with this. I'm not saying that someone else can't make another video hosting site. The problem is getting people to it, getting people who aren't gun people to it. And the infrastructure, it's incredibly expensive to host video. I cannot imagine the buildings and buildings of like servers and crap that YouTube has to host all the videos they host.
Mm-hmm.
It must just be mind-boggling, because it sure as hell isn't on a single computer. I can't imagine.
No.
So, but this really is a threat, and not only does it make our voice diminished in the firearms community, because instead of being able to, someone who's on the fence, instead of being able to show them an instructional video from Hickok 45 or show them a historical, explanation of a firearm and why it is that way from Ian or Carl, it really is a detriment, because then it's just, I'm some pro-gun person spewing because I love guns and I don't know what I'm talking about and I have nothing to back me up. Whereas now I can just, here's a link, go watch this video and get educated. And, that's just, if that goes away, which, and again, it's what they say, 30 days. So who knows how vigorously this will be enforced, but I think it's going to give them a broad latitude to do a lot of bad things to a lot of really valuable content.
Well, let's end it on a brighter note, because that's pretty dark. Is, you said that, maybe somebody else will come up with, an infrastructure to beat, to beat YouTube, and they will, because again, Kmart just went out of business. Growing up, Kmart was the big box store. And
are you trying to say if you build it, they will come?
You know where I'm going with this. So that's really good. All right, let's just dive into it. There already is video hosting sites that rival YouTube in their sheer power. And one of those is one that's being populated by we got Othais from CN Arsenal, and Carl and Ian from is Ian putting Forgotten Weapons up on it? I don't
know if he has yet,
but I know In Range is up there, but they're putting their videos up on Pornhub.
I'll be sure to keep checking.
And so you want to talk about cross-pollination. Hey, you know what? Those are, it doesn't have the cooking videos that I watch or the car reviews, but those are definitely two genres that I watch.
Yeah, well, you laugh, or I laughed, but because of what they did, Othais and them, Carl and Ian have been on Reuters. Carl got interviewed by Reuters TV. Ian is on the BBC and NPR. Bloomberg interviewed them. They were the first ones. They've gotten about 5 or 6 interviews today.
Yeah. So
the name of In Range TV and all these other ones have been going out on mainstream talking about this exact issue. So who knows, that exposure right there could pressure YouTube to back down. I mean, God knows that they won't probably, but
yeah, but well, they may or they may not. But again, it's just cross-pollination it's wrong what YouTube is doing.
Yes, but we can't force them to stop.
And we can't force them to stop. But so long as we can get people. So in 1994, we banned quote unquote assault weapons. And that was wrong, and that was a mistake. And it's pretty obvious it was wrong and it was a mistake. And we repealed it, and that's good. But when it was first conducted, we didn't think it was wrong. We didn't think it was. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of people that supported the assault weapons ban thought they were banning full auto weapons. They thought that you could walk into Cabela's. Well, there wasn't Cabela's back then, but you could walk into the Kittery Trading Post and pick up not an AR-15, but an actual M16. And this 1994 ban solved that, which is not true. And so it took us 10 years of convincing and letting people know what was going on. And I think the same thing can be done with YouTube, is explaining that, no, these aren't hurting anybody. This isn't doing any harm. This is just exile.
Right. Perfect. So with that, we'll head into the wrap-up section and close out the show. Don't forget to shop Brownells using our affiliate link. Head to firearmsradio.tv and click the affiliate link in the upper right-hand corner. Be sure to go like Handgun Radio on Facebook and share it with your friends, and leave us a review on iTunes. Listen to all the great shows on the Firearms Radio Network, and be sure to check out the Firearms Radio Network on YouTube while it's still there, maybe. And Weird, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Handgun Radio, where I'm a co-host. You can also read my blog, which is weirdworld.com. And at some point, hopefully really soon, you will hear me on the Assorted Calibers podcast.
And we'll be sure to share all the information, like I said, on the Facebook page, and we'll mention it on the show too, if you get a website going up for that. But thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
And everybody, write to YouTube if you can. Call them. I don't care. Piss them off, annoy them, but this needs to not happen. And I really hope that all the people that actually put their hard work and hard effort into all their videos, like Military Arms Channel, In Range TV, Forgotten Weapons, See an Arsenal, etc., Hickok 45, this is really going to hurt them, I think, in the long term, or even in the short term, rather. So if you can voice your opinion to YouTube, if there is a way to do that, please do so. So until next week, have fun and safe shooting.